Welcome to Work in the Future, the podcast that keeps you ahead of the curve when it comes to the ways that the world of work is being transformed. I'm your host, economist and keynote speaker, Linda Nazareth. Each episode, we dive into the trends shaping tomorrow's workplace so that you can navigate it and lead it with confidence. Well, hello, and thank you for joining us today. Today, I have a really interesting guest to share with you. Her name is Tara Chklovski, and she's the founder of a nonprofit called Technovation. Now, Technovation has as its mission introducing young women to tech and getting them excited about it to the point where they can see themselves working in it, making a contribution to the sector, and really just not being scared off by it. Now, it's not a new problem that women can be intimidated by tech. It tends to start when they're young. Tara describes it as death by 1,000 cuts, like lots of reasons for women to shy away from this. Girls somehow believe that math is hard or too hard for them. By the time they get to high school, they are making choices that preclude them from seeking out careers in engineering or math or tech in general. And those careers actually might be a good fit for them. So Tara talked about how she came to wanting to change this. She saw this as an issue and maybe one that she could solve, and then she created Technovation. It was really cool to hear her talking about the work she's done with this, how she's gotten young women and now young men to work on teams and gotten them excited about what they could do with the tools that are now available and how they could use them to solve problems within their own communities. Now, as much as it was really interesting to talk about that, every episode now, I'm asking my guests about artificial intelligence and asking them from their different vantage points how they think this is going to change work. I asked Tara, and she had some really honest answers to that question. Actually thinks it might be kind of brutal, particularly for knowledge workers, but there's things that we can do to arm ourselves against the worst of these disruptions. It was a fascinating conversation with Tara. Please stay with me to hear it. Well, how do we get more women into tech? To talk about that, I'm joined by Tara Chklovski. She's founder and CEO of Technovation. Tara, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Linda.
It's really an interesting subject, and I'm really interested in what I've seen of your work. But I always like to ask my guests, how did you end up in the career you're in? So you got to this place where you're doing this work.
I was trained as a physicist, and I was doing my PhD in aerospace engineering. And I think at that point in time, there wasn't a startup industry in the aerospace world. And I did not want to work for a big aerospace company. And just looking around, I come from India, and looking around in the US, I was kind of struck by the lack of women in engineering, and the lack of women in leadership, and the lack of women in innovation. And that to me was an interesting problem for a very wealthy country. And it really was sort of speaking to me about a very different type of mindset that I guess society places on children. If you're a particular gender, these are the roles that are okay for you, and that just limits potential. And that's why I was very intrigued by this. And having grown up in a lower income country, where you don't have that kind of expectation, because all hands on deck, we need to get the jobs that make the most money and that helps bring up your family into a different sort of wealth status. So that was just an interesting mindset. And I think it's a missed opportunity when people don't go through sort of technical training, because then you end up going through life kind of fearful, because so much of our lives are, especially now with AI, right? And so that mindset of curiosity and building things and being able to problem solve was missing. And that's why I decided, okay, I'm going to step into this other career path.
When do you think it happens that girls, young women, get off track? Because I have to think little kids, they're all somewhat equal. They take math, they take the same classes. Is there an age where it splits off?
Not really an age. It's like death by 1,000 cuts, you know? Because it's not as if you decide your career path when you're 8 years old, right? Like, and sometimes even though society may have placed lots of expectations on you as in elementary, middle school, like people say middle school is the age where you want to really make the most impact, but it really can change at any point. Like, I think having that lifelong learning mindset is something that we want to be incorporating in adults as well. But during high school, I think is very formative because it depends upon which career paths. Like if you cut off math subjects, or if you think that this is not good for me, I'm not good at math, you sort of shut out the whole engineering space, right? And it's just harder to get back as an adult into computer science and some of these harder technical spaces. So I would say, yeah, like steadily sending that message to young girls that um, this is not hard. It's rewarding in so many ways. This is hard fun. It's good for you. Build that muscle. It's totally meant for you.
So Technovation is the product of this thinking. Tell me about this, how you started it and where it is now.
Yeah, so we've been running for almost 20 years, and our core program is an accelerator experience, but for young people. And girls work in teams. They're supported by a mentor. They find a problem that they care about, typically something that people in their community face, and then they actually build a technology prototype, test it with real users, figure out a sort of competitor plan and then develop and market it. They have to pitch it to investors. They usually get up and pitch to hundreds and hundreds of adults in a kind of a demo day pitch event. And then they're competing with one another from girls from different countries. And then we have sort of the finalists usually fly to Silicon Valley. And last year, the girls got a chance to pitch to tech leaders at NVIDIA. And this year we're just about sort of wrapping up this process of figuring out who the winners are. But yeah, I think we had about 33,000 girls this year participate in the competition.
That's very cool. Is this a nonprofit?
Yes, it's completely free. Anybody can access this.
So how do you choose the schools? I mean, say in the US, do you just make it available or?
It's completely free. Anybody can participate. We don't choose. So, any parent, any mentor, any educator who wants to bring this kind of real world problem solving experience to young people in their communities, it's completely free, and you can access it anytime.
Can you give us an example of some of the projects that have won prizes or that girls have worked on?
Yeah, so just such an incredible range. Some of my favorite ideas using image recognition to help Californian farmers actually quickly identify weeds. Another one really about uh, using um, helping Vietnamese communities use facial recognition systems that better understand their facial expressions because many of the image recognition models are trained on Western faces. Um, one of the winning apps from last year was a girl from India. Northern India suffers a lot from air pollution, and so she created an app that could help people understand what was their risk to lung cancer. So she trained an AI model on lung X-rays, but she found that the Kaggle data sets were really just US machines, and the X-ray machines in India are calibrated differently. And so she needed to build up her own data set. Um, we just have such a wide range. Lots of girls create apps around women's health, climate. One app also was kind of cool where this girl was monitoring the status of a lake in southern India, and she did not have access to a water sensor. So she made this kind of hypothesis that as the lake gets cleaner due to volunteer efforts, more birds will come. And so she created an AI model that would detect different bird songs, but all of the AI bird recognition systems were trained on US birds. And so she built her own model of Indian bird songs. And so you just get such a wide range of innovative ideas because young people have been given these powerful tools and given this challenge to make the world a better place.
I want to talk more about AI, Tara, but let's just take a quick break here. We'll be right back.
If you're enjoying this conversation and want to bring insights like these to your next event, visit lindanazareth.com to book Linda Nazareth as your keynote speaker. Linda is an economist and futurist, and she is a dynamic and experienced speaker who has presented to audiences across a broad range of industries on the megatrends shaping the economy and the future of work. That's lindanazareth.com, or send an email to speaking@lindanazareth.com.
I'm back with Tara Chklovski. She is founder and CEO of Technovation. Tara, really interesting stuff in terms of the projects you're doing with girls. I have to ask, do you get any pushback that you're working with girls as opposed to making this available to everyone?
The curriculum is available to everyone, and many educators use the curriculum with girls and boys. Yes, in this current environment, we are getting a lot of pushback, and we are making our curriculum available widely to all educators to be able to use it with girls and boys in the classroom. I think I think in this AI space, it is very important to think about. There's a massive gap between how the education system is treating AI and how students are using AI, and how the world of work is rapidly trying to get employees to use more AI tools to increase productivity. Um, and we really need to think very hard about what is important to teach and learn. And I think these real world problem solving skills, complex systems thinking skills are really important for all students, girls and boys. And that's why we care so deeply about making our curriculum open to all. But yeah, we definitely have received pushback against as part of the anti-DEI movement.
I thought it was really interesting when I looked at the skills you're mentioning, critical thinking and collaboration and resilience. These are the skills the World Economic Forum has flagged more than once in their future work report, saying, these are the skills we need. Now, you're developing these skills by project work, right? Or is there other things you're doing to make sure,
Real world
these are strengths?
problem solving. Like it really is, you work in a team, right? Like the whole structure of the program is about this, right? Like when you have five people work together, you have to figure out, like you have to align on what is the problem that we all care about, right? So the kind of negotiation and the communication skills that you develop trying to move a team forward and actually have a working prototype is an entrepreneur's experience, right? And that's why this is so transformational, and you're building really the skills of innovation, which are the skills that I think the future needs.
Okay, let's get back to AI. I ask everyone this these days, kind of a blanket question. What do you think of this? Like, how is this going to change the future for the young people you are teaching and training? Are they going to have the same opportunities? Are they going to have better opportunities?
I think about this a lot. And I think, as I was saying, like, firstly, really revamping and thinking pretty hard about what are the skills that we need to be teaching young people. And it is like this complex system thinking. And I think that even in a year and a half, we're going to see massive change, because I'm sure all of us are using AI assistants, and you see them improving almost every 2 weeks, right? Like they can, and the tools like the Claude and Grok and ChatGPT, right? Like in Gemini, like they're all different, and I use all of them, and they're all different assistants for different things. And this is only going to get better. And so I think that there are roughly, I don't know what, 3.6 billion people in the workforce. I think there will be fewer jobs. I think there'll be 20% reduction in jobs, because you can just see that, right? You can just see um, the research that these AI assistants enable you to do. It would have taken me a team of I don't know how many people to do the same amount of research, right? So I think at a first level there'll be fewer jobs. I think service sector jobs are relatively safe, because the human to human interaction will still be very important, very valuable. Um, I think knowledge work is kind of at threat. Um, and I think there's a real danger of a lot of wealth and power being concentrated in few hands, in few corporations. And so I think that conflict because of inequality will rise unless educators really step up to instill a different set of values in young people, where you're thinking about these planet-sized problems, right? Like 50% of the world still doesn't have access to electricity, internet, or roads. So how really tackling poverty, really tackling healthcare, these very, very big climate issues, right? Like that's what our young people should be focusing on, and giving them the skills so that they can actually solve these very hard problems that are left for us. I think there'll be a lot of wealth, but unless we do something about it, it will be concentrated in a few hands. And I think that'll lead to a lot of unhappiness unless we teach sort of deep civic engagement in young people, helping them sort of fight corruption and have people be accountable to some of these kinds of larger systemic issues. But education, I think, is the answer here.
That's a big estimate, the 20% loss in jobs. I mean, we said things like this when they first had word processors and computers, right? It's going to take away, or even the bank tellers are going to be replaced by machines. And it didn't happen, right? We created other jobs. Do you see this?
That's right.
Do you see this being different?
Yes, because I mean, you probably see it in your own work, right? And that's why I'm saying it's different. The internet increased our productivity, but it didn't replace jobs because the help that it provided was quite sort of augmentative. But in this case, I mean, you're actually getting rid of real jobs. And I'm not seeing where the role for the human is. I think the role for humans is still sort of tackling some of these very complex problems, but it requires sort of a reorientation of what we value. And so this is not like the previous revolutions, because you're also building on an infrastructure. You're building in a world where there's already fiber internet cables laid, right? Like, so the reason why ChatGPT could reach 100 million users so fast was because we all have devices. So many of us have access to internet, right? So these technologies are compounding on the progress made by other. So that's why this is a little bit different.
Let's get back to tech. You want to get women into tech, and they're coming up against all kinds of changes. First of all, I think sometimes women shy away from it because it's considered not a very friendly or nice place to work, money or not. Are you seeing that? Are you seeing it changing?
Not at all. I'm not seeing any change. And I think, if anything, women are the largest group at risk of losing their jobs because of AI. So the World Economic Forum that you're citing says the fastest growing jobs, women represent only 23% of those fastest growing jobs. And the fastest declining jobs, women are overrepresented. So 76% of the fastest declining jobs are held by women. So if you combine the two, like 99% exposure risk to losing their job. And then women are not learning about AI. And all the sort of Coursera learners, only I think 30% of the learners on the AI courses are women, and they're only learning the most sort of introductory courses on AI. They're not using AI, and they were never building AI in the first place. So the threat to women being left behind is enormous. And it's very, very important for us to change that.
Well, what about the culture, though? I mean, it's considered not friendly as a culture, or in some companies better than others, perhaps, but that's always been an issue. Do you see that part changing?
Um, I think we've taken a few steps back, right?
Oh, okay.
In sort of the recent environment in the US. But I think it is also sparking some conversations, right? And maybe the women sort of in tech movement took things a little bit too far, and maybe it is like, how do we communicate with one another a bit better? And I think the conversation isn't that there's a finite pie and that the X number of jobs. I think the whole conversation is quite different with AI, and I think there's the potential here is to solve some of the biggest problems that have faced humanity, and there's room for all. I think we need a different kind of problem statement where we are not starting with, oh, women make 23% of the jobs, but rather there are all these big problems to solve, and humans have a role to play, and we need to do that together. Because I've been part of the women in tech coding movements and use these kinds of problem statements, and it's not worked. So we've got to do something different.
And for all that, are you an optimist, Tara?
Oh, obviously. That's why I'm still doing what I'm doing.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there on an optimistic note. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
You're most welcome. It was a great pleasure. I love the questions, Linda.
Thank you. Tara Chklovski is founder and CEO of Technovation.
Thanks for listening to Work in the Future.
If today's episode sparked ideas for your organization, reach out. I would love to help you shape the future of work at your next event. To discuss your event and book me as a speaker or moderator, please visit lindanazareth.com or email speaking@lindanazareth.com. You can also visit me on Instagram at Linda Nazareth Keynote Speaker and send me a direct message there. If you did like this discussion about the future of work, please remember to subscribe to the podcast. Also, your reviews really help people to find us, so please make sure you take time to leave one wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. And as always, thank you to Stokely Audio for audio production. Welcome to Work in the Future, the podcast that keeps you ahead of the curve when it comes to the ways that the world of work is being transformed. I'm your host, economist and keynote speaker, Linda Nazareth. Each episode, we dive into the trends shaping tomorrow's workplace so that you can navigate it and lead it with confidence. Well, hello, and thank you for joining us today. Today, I have a really interesting guest to share with you. Her name is Tara Chklovski, and she's the founder of a nonprofit called Technovation. Now, Technovation has as its mission introducing young women to tech and getting them excited about it to the point where they can see themselves working in it, making a contribution to the sector, and really just not being scared off by it. Now, it's not a new problem that women can be intimidated by tech. It tends to start when they're young. Tara describes it as death by 1,000 cuts, like lots of reasons for women to shy away from this. Girls somehow believe that math is hard or too hard for them. By the time they get to high school, they are making choices that preclude them from seeking out careers in engineering or math or tech in general. And those careers actually might be a good fit for them. So Tara talked about how she came to wanting to change this. She saw this as an issue and maybe one that she could solve, and then she created Technovation. It was really cool to hear her talking about the work she's done with this, how she's gotten young women and now young men to work on teams and gotten them excited about what they could do with the tools that are now available and how they could use them to solve problems within their own communities. Now, as much as it was really interesting to talk about that, every episode now, I'm asking my guests about artificial intelligence and asking them from their different vantage points how they think this is going to change work. I asked Tara, and she had some really honest answers to that question. Actually thinks it might be kind of brutal, particularly for knowledge workers, but there's things that we can do to arm ourselves against the worst of these disruptions. It was a fascinating conversation with Tara. Please stay with me to hear it.